Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another tropical forecast here by Agent of the Forecast. This would be a huge forecast on now officially tropical storm Gonzalo here for portions up here into the tropical Atlantic. It has formed just not too long ago. It is now bringing 45 miles an hour here and central pressure to 1,003 millibars. So it is definitely now what we thought it was going to be. Now we have officially the earliest letter G now. So now July 22nd is now the new date here. It was actually July 24th. So we actually now beat another record here in 2020. So not surprising, but that's what we're going to be focusing on today's video. The strength, the cone, where it can go, whether it's going to fall apart, whether it can strengthen, all that. And also, we're going to briefly talk about Invest 91L a little bit in the video, just not too much because I feel like Gonzalo will be more of a topic. And also, hopefully today I will have time later in the evening to talk about Tropical Storm Douglas in the Eastern Pacific, to maybe even possibly make landfall in Hawaii later this week. So I'll be talking about that hopefully later today. But before we get into the video, please check out the new Discord description, the links below. It is now Weather Expo, so be sure to check that out. Awesome community there for weather. Hit the like button if you really enjoy the video so I know I can do more videos like these. Also subscribe if you're new to show your awesome support. And also hit the post notification icon so you get notified as soon as I post a video. But without further ado, let's get into this tropical forecast. So here's the National Hurricane Center. As you see here, it's Tropical Storm Gonzalo all the way here to the tropical Atlantic, making its way closer and closer into the Caribbean, possibly making landfall by the next 90 hours in the Lesser Antilles and in those general areas right there in the southeastern Caribbean. But here it is all the way up here in the tropical Atlantic. This tropical wave off the coast of Africa really did help this develop. We had a lot of dry air in the tropical Atlantic not too long ago, but now this tropical wave is bringing a lot of moisture south of that dry air, which is exactly why we have Gonzalo right now. And also here we have the disturbance or Invest 91L here into the south central Gulf of Mexico. Here is now updated to a 50% chance, so a medium probability for the next 5 days, but a 40% chance for the next 48 hours. So this could very well maybe be a borderline tropical storm or a moderately strong, as you can say, maybe weak tropical storm. So we still have hope for this becoming a Hannah, maybe making landfall closer to Houston, maybe even Brownsville, or even maybe even portions near the Corpus Christi area. But that's what we're going to be briefly talking about with this video, but mainly talking about Gonzalo. Here it is now bringing 45 miles an hour. Let me actually move this a little bit more so you guys can see 45 miles an hour and 1,003 millibars minimal central pressure. So it is definitely at a central pressure for to really sustain a tropical storm. And it is moving west-northwest at 12 miles an hour. So the reason why it's moving pretty fast, so it's going to try to avoid this dry air that's kind of north to it. Right here, all this dry air. It's trying to catch up to it, but Gonzalo's trying to officially close its moisture up and then close the low pressures and to maybe strengthen a lot more, really. But we're having a little drier that could maybe affect it a little bit, but as long as this moisture bubble does close up, we should be fine from really seeing prevention of development because of dry air. But now let's go and check out the satellite imagery of Tropical Storm Gonzalo. So here's satellite imagery here on Tropical Storm Gonzalo. As you see, it is actually a very nice looking tropical storm on satellite imagery. Just look at this beautiful storm. You have the nice defined outer bands stretching out here from this low pressure. Here you have where that low pressure is right now. That'll be where the center of the storm is. But look at these outer bands, really organized. And as you can see, it definitely has a ton of vorticity here. We are possibly maybe having a little dry air getting in right here, but really it's going to enclose very soon. If it does, and if that happens, then this could very well get a bit stronger before it actually affects the Lesser Antilles. But here you have these really defined outer bands, really extremely defined. There you have these nice fluffy dense cloud cover in the center of the storm. We have that disturbed thunderstorms right there. And as we look as of now, you definitely see that vorticity. You definitely see it here. Maybe something very interesting developing in the middle of the system. Maybe an eye wall possibly developing here. That could very well be something to talk about if this moisture bubble doesn't close. That would definitely be something to keep in mind. Maybe a nice center developing, but obviously until it actually defines into a moisture bubble, then then we can't really talk about it, because as of now, this dryer is still a threat for now. But if it does not affect the trouble, if it does not affect Gonzalo within the next 48 hours, then we will be in the clear for this actually to strengthen. But I still see it strengthening. I don't see this dryer preventing the storm from developing. I don't see it slowing down the process of developing. I do see it strengthening a little bit slowly but surely before it gets to the Lesser Antilles. So here is the Conan timing here for the National Hurricane Center. As you see, here it is at 5 a.m. today at its tropical storm right here. So here it is, tropical storm Gonzalo, right here. So pretty impressive. You see, we have the letter G already, and really kind of, you could say, mid-July. So that's something impressive here. It is 2020, so not like we didn't expect this. But here you have the Conan timing here for tropical storm Gonzalo. As far as Monday, we are still expecting this to be a tropical storm and not a hurricane. I wouldn't rule out the possibility if this does become a hurricane. I do see it happening. If anything out of this and Invest Anyone L will become named as a hurricane, or it will be as a hurricane, I do see it being Gonzalo. I do see it that having a bit more favorable conditions, and it does have a lot longer of a track, so it does have a lot more time, really. Only thing is that this will actually go over the Lesser Antilles, maybe even going over in between Jamaica, Haiti, and Cuba. So that's the only thing, but really it does have around 700 plus miles of just nothing to come before the Lesser Antilles, and then it has like another like 500 miles after that. So really favorable, as you can tell. But as you see, this is where it will be by the next 1 to 3. This will be where it will be as far as the next 3 days, getting closer to the Lesser Antilles. So we won't really for the next 72 hours. There won't be much to say about Gonzalo, except really whether it's going to strengthen more in the future. But it won't really do anything interesting as in landfall wise for the next couple of days. But once it affects the Lesser Antilles, then we kind of have to worry whether it's going to either affect Puerto Rico, or whether it affects the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba. Or maybe if it's just going to avoid all those areas and going to go straight into the Gulf. That would also be a possibility if it just skips the whole Caribbean mainland areas and just goes into the Western Caribbean near Jamaica and near the Havana area and just goes straight up into the areas into the Gulf. That wouldn't be impressive, or wouldn't be shocked that happens. And then this will be for the next 4 to 5 days. So it'll be right here at a big tropical storm. So based on this, if you're the cone, so we have the Lesser Antilles, even portions of Venezuela are under this cone. So South America, it's going to be a close call. Maybe some strong winds for the northern Venezuela area, maybe even the portion of Colombia right there. So that would be something really interesting as well. But it's going to go in between all this land right here. So that's the only thing. It's going to go in between all this land. And here is basically a general where this eye or the center of this tropical storm can go based on this. It's basically right here. So only area that will, as of now, where we have as far as the next 5 days is Lesser Antilles. But based on seeing where this turn is going, if you just follow the pattern, really, it may possibly go in between Jamaica and Cuba and then go like this. Just if you follow the pattern, doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. Just if you're following the pattern of this turn. Here are the real model track guidance, like all the models in general, not just a big cone. As you see, all the models do show it kind of affecting the far southern islands here of the Lesser Antilles. Going to avoid the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it's going to maintain as well. It's going to avoid South America. It's going to be a very close call. Some models may show it riding the South American coast, but I don't see that happening. I see it being like right dead center right here. That's exactly where I see the storm going, in the middle of these models. I do agree with these models. And as you see, the models, a couple are showing that turn, like the turn right here we just saw in the cone timing for the National Hurricane Center. Some of these models are showing turning and go between Cuba and Haiti and Cuba right there. I do see that possibly being a outcome at the end of this, or it takes a slowly but surely turn and maybe affects Jamaica or affects areas around Jamaica and then goes into the Gulf. You see, there's multiple outcomes, really. Yes, the models aren't showing going out like this. I didn't really think that was going to be a possibility. But there's still multiple things that can happen. It can either take a little slowly but surely turn, make landfall on Haiti, then go to Cuba, and then maybe even, who knows, there's Florida right there north of Cuba. Who knows, maybe it does affect Florida if it does take that turn. If it doesn't take that turn, then most likely it won't even touch Florida or be close to Florida. Or it can take a slowly but surely turn like this, or just go straight to the Gulf and maybe even affect Cancun. that was the main area we were going to talk about, kind of the Cancun area. Ever since it's become an invest, we were talking about Cancun and the Gulf of Mexico, but who knows? Maybe it will end up it most likely will end up in the Gulf, but maybe it might hit a bit more land before it does that. Here's the tropical storm Gonzalo intensity guidance. This is the new intensity guidance. As you see, here it is at a tropical storm right here, 40 miles an hour, or 40 knots, 45 miles an hour. And some models are expecting it just to maintain as a strong tropical storm, but other models do show it getting to a Category 1 force when extended by the next 24 to 36 hours. So, like I said, I do see it becoming a hurricane. I just don't see it being a hurricane that soon. I would say hurricane maybe just before the Lesser Antilles landfall, so maybe 72 hours. I just don't think it will be a hurricane that fast, in my opinion. I do think it has to slowly close that moisture bubble, and then it'll have a strengthening phase. Maybe it will strengthen 10 miles an hour in a day. I do definitely, or not definitely, I do see it possibly very well becoming a hurricane. In just my opinion, just not that soon. But some models are showing it getting to that extent. And then some even showing getting to a slowly but surely Category 2. Category 2 isn't ruling out the possibility. I don't think you can say it would be Category 2 as of now, really. You can say it's possible, or it's not surprised. It won't be surprising if it happens. I'm just saying, I'm going to stay with Category 1 right now, maybe moderate Category 1, because again, if it does take that northern turn, which models do, some show it taking, hitting Cuba, Haiti, it will kind of weaken kind of how strong it get, unless it gets Category 2 before affecting the dead center Caribbean, including Cuba, including Haiti, including Jamaica. If it does manage to do that, then that'll be pretty impressive. But I'm going to stick with this just being a general hurricane. I'm not going to really say this strength-wise. And so, yeah, these are some models swinging as far as 90 knots. So, around 100 miles an hour. Just under 100 miles an hour. I think like 99 miles an hour, something like that. So, getting closer to that kind of Category 1 force, or Category 3 force winds there. But that is the intensity guidance here. And last thing we'll be looking at is the general GEFS tracks and also minimal central pressure. As you see here, it is at possibly going to really strengthen a good amount, really, you could say that. But here's the general kind of cone, really. As you see, some of the models, like I said, are going to possibly hit Cancun. That was really the first track we thought of when this became a system. We all thought, oh, it's going to go into the Caribbean. But look, the majority of the models are really not showing it taking that northerly turn. And then that could be a threat for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Gulf. That could be an issue now. Instead of Texas and maybe Cancun, maybe it's going to take this turn right here. Possibly either get close or make landfall near Jamaica. Maybe go near Havana and then hit Mobile, Pensacola, or Hattiesburg, or Gulfport, or New Orleans. That is actually that is actually something that could very well happen. Taking that northerly turn. I just don't see it taking a sharp turn like this. I don't see it taking a turn like it showed yesterday, going near Bermuda and like that. I don't see that happening. But I could definitely well see a slowly but surely northern turn, like this, kind of like this. Or actually, no, that's a little sharp. Like this, like what the models are showing, like this, like a slowly but surely turn. Still gonna end up in the Gulf. I don't think it's gonna go all the way into the middle of the Atlantic and drift off. I do see it ending up in the Gulf. I just don't see it going into the region that we thought of. We thought Cancun and then Bay Campeche. I now see it maybe Eastern Gulf. Eastern Gulf is in my red for my whole forecast since like April. So Mobile, Pensacola, you guys definitely, well, I want to say being a look at as of now. It's still very far out. Just keep this in mind. But now that we check that out, let's check satellite imagery here on Invest 91L. So here is a look now at Invest 91L. As you see, look at this. It's not even that far off the Louisiana coast. Look at this. It's right here. This is where it is. Honestly, I would have thought it would have been a tropical storm at this point when it got to this extent in the Gulf, really. But obviously, it hasn't. very surprising because it was extremely favorable, really. But yeah, here it is right here. This actually loads. Here it is right here. This general system. Here it is right there. I would have thought it would have been either depression or low end tropical storm at this point. Because it's right here. That's exactly where the center of this invest is. And it still has a long way to go if it goes like this. It still has a long way to go, so it still has time to be handled. But here it is there on the satellite imagery. Pretty nice storm, really for, not storm, pretty nice invest. And water vapor's pretty, it's not impressive. It's getting there. It really is getting there. As you see, it's actually developing a circular rotation or circular formation and formation and rotation. So that is a sign of maybe it is strengthening for sure. And maybe tropical depression by tonight, hopefully. That'll be something to keep in mind. But that is there on satellite imagery there for 91L. Here is the intended guidance now for Invest 91L. As you do see, it is at 25 knots here, 30 miles an hour, just under 30 miles an hour. So maybe tropical storm force winds by the next 30 to 48 hours. That seems pretty reasonable, really, but kind of maybe either low end or either a really moderate tropical storm. I really do see it being named for sure. I do see it being Hannah. I really do. But really, from either maybe either 50 knots or 55 knots, I could very well see that. But that's that. But now let's go check out a look at all of the models here. So here's a look at the GFS model here on precipitation rate. Here you see it right here, getting right here as a tropical storm, of course, right there in the tropical Atlantic with quite the heavy rain and downpours, obviously. Those disturbed thunderstorms are exactly why becoming invest, and those thunderstorms are really going to become something quite interesting, especially as it gets near the July 25th mark on the next 84 hours, right there, getting closer to the Lesser Antilles at that point. That's exactly maybe when we could see that outburst of maybe a moderate to strong tropical storm, because at that point, the moisture bubble will, if it goes as expected, it will close up, and that's where it block off that dry air, any dry air, whether it's weak or strong dry air. So really, that's when models are showing it being a hurricane. I don't see it being a hurricane within the next 48 hours. Obviously, it can throw a curveball, and it can close up extremely fast and then it can become a hurricane. So maybe 48 to 72 hours seems a reasonable time if it becomes a hurricane. National Hurricane Center doesn't show that becoming a hurricane until, or even as far as Monday, it doesn't show a single thing of becoming a hurricane. So I do see it being a hurricane. I just don't see it that soon, but maybe strong tropical storm by the time it affects the Lesser Antilles, and maybe a hurricane when it actually, after that, as you see, then it starts to strengthen at that point, and then you see it affecting portions of, bringing a lot of rain towards Puerto Rico, even though it's the center of it isn't over there. Here you see the center right there, and then after that, kind of disappears. Really, it kind of disappears after that, which is kind of confusing. Really, it kind of disappears after it kind of affects the Lesser Antilles. Not that like it falls apart, it kind of disappeared out of nowhere. Really, the GFS is really constantly falling apart. Really, but here's now a look at 91L. Here you see all that moisture here on the eastern Gulf. There, very favorable conditions. Really little shear, and there it is, possibly going to affect portions of the Louisiana and Houston area, and possibly by July 25th make landfall into the eastern Texas coast there, and that'll bring a lot of rain towards that area. Now let's go check out the CMC model here. CMC model, it has been really good with actually kind of tracking this whole storm here, kind of 99L. So here we take a look at the CMCs here. CMC bringing in that storm right there, of course. Actually maybe going just affecting that really far southern islands there at the Lesser Antilles, and then actually starts kind of disappearing into the Central America area. So still, models are not making really any sense here. Let's go and check another vorticity here on GFS. Here it is, right there. That nice vorticity signature as a tropical storm right there into the tropical Atlantic. And actually, it really becomes a lot more circular dense. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Maybe it does become a strong tropical storm before affecting the Lesser Antilles. Look at that. It kind of really becomes really powerful there. And goes right over the Lesser Antilles right there. So that's something to keep in mind. And then kind of just possibly even hits the Dominican Republic based on what I'm looking at, and then actually it goes towards the Key West. So that's exactly what we're looking at in vorticity. Look at this. It affects the Lesser Antilles, then it goes to a northerly turn, affects the Dominican Republic area between Puerto Rico, affects the Bahamas, and then goes to the Key West, and then goes into the Gulf. That's exactly what the GFS vorticity is showing, which is kind of, that's a weird track. Obviously, I didn't think it was good. I wouldn't know what the possibility if it does get close to Florida, if it does take that northerly turn, maybe, because it is going to hit Cuba if it does do that. And Cuba, Florida's right there. It's right there. So maybe it'll either be a close call or affects the eastern Gulf Coast. That's a possibility. So here we now look at the CMC here for Invest 91L. Here you see that vorticity signature right there. And then it is showing it actually a good vorticity signature right there. And then you see Gonzalo nearing up on that little region there. And there it is. But look at this. Actually, here we got 91L, soon to be Hannah, and then we have Gonzalo right here. So the tropics are definitely ramping up. And then you see, look at that. It's actually, the CMC is showing a lot more of a vorticity signature. So that is actually a good sign there. And here you have Gonzalo going into the southern Lesser Antilles. And then you got 91L, soon to be Tropical Depression 8 or Tropical Storm Hannah, making landfall south of Houston near the areas of Brownsville or Corpus Christi. That's a huge vorticity signature. And then there you see there you got Gonzalo right there, and it's gonna be heading towards areas of the Gulf, and then heading to the Western Caribbean, and then just goes into Central America, which is actually making no sense really at this point. SSTs, let's go and check that out here. See how favorable SSTs are. We already know that's very favorable as of now. But look, so now we got 31 degrees Celsius officially here for portions of the Western Gulf. So if it does go out in the Western Gulf, 91L, that'll be interesting if it does go this way. Really, if it goes into more southern Texas, that'll be actually a big issue because maybe it could strengthen a lot more. And then we have obviously Gonzalo way up here around there, further up right there, and then it could very well either do this. Actually, you can either go into really warm SSTs like this, maybe. That's what I'm picturing. But also there's also this track as well, maybe. But either way, this thing has thousands, or not thousands, hundreds of miles of very warm SSTs. Look at this. Right before we get to the Lesser Antilles, there's a spot of 30 degrees Celsius, which is actually decent there. Really, it's going to go through 29 degrees Celsius. But if it goes actually near that Cuba area, if it actually moves in this general area, if it does go up like this, or actually that's actually if it goes like this, really around this general area, that'll be that's exactly where this will blow up. So if it actually does take that northerly turn into Cuba like this, that's where it's going to be really strengthening. That's when it could definitely become a hurricane. So really, we have multiple outcomes. It's kind of annoying. It can either hit the Mexico area, can either hit Haiti, the far western tip of Haiti, Jamaica, partially Cuba, maybe even the Key West, maybe even this general area. There's so many possibilities, and it's kind of annoying that we actually don't know exactly where this storm is going to go, really. But that's that, really. Now, as we check out now the humidity here, the relative humidity, as we see, we are seeing a little dry, or actually drier, like I said, to the north of this and the west. So you can see all extremely drier all over the place. But look at this, like I said, if it does create that moisture bubble, which it will, see, as you see, there's that moisture bubble. It's going to enclose that low pressure and make it strengthen a lot. And that's exactly what it's going to do, really. Look at that nice enclosed moisture bubble as it does go into the Lesser Antilles. Like I said, I've been saying that that's exactly when it can become a strong tropical storm. And then there it is, that moisture does take it into the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba. And look, it takes all this moist air into this whole area. So it could very well, or this moist air just push anything that will go there right here. So that could very well become either a Gulf storm or something very interesting there. And then the last thing I'll be looking at is very detailed on what we're going to be seeing with wind-wise for Tropical Storm Gonzalo. As we now get the next coming hours, you're going to be possibly seeing most likely maybe up to 52 knots. So that's around 61 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour. And that's right before it actually affects the Lesser Antilles. And after that, we kind of lose track of it. So really losing track of of where it's going to go, really. So it's kind of annoying at this point. We kind of lose track of it after that, and it's a tropical storm, yet we don't know. It's officially a tropical storm, yet we don't know exactly where it's going to go at this point exactly, or even exact strength. Before we actually wrap the video, here is a major update from the National Hurricane Center, as they do show possibly having a hurricane with just before the Lesser Antilles. So I guess I was wrong. I didn't see it become a hurricane anytime or within the next 48 hours, but I guess this low pressure is really strengthening a lot, and I guess this moisture bubble didn't close a lot earlier than expected, really. So I guess it could become a hurricane by tomorrow morning. Hurricane Gonzalo, the first hurricane in the whole 2020 Atlantic hurricane season here. So that's a huge update here, and as you see now, possibly still going to be a tropical storm when it makes landfall in the Lesser Antilles, but maybe if it does strengthen enough, it could still be a hurricane at that point before when it actually makes landfall in the Lesser Antilles. But that's a huge update here. So before I wrap the video, I just want to show you guys that major update. So maybe Hurricane Gonzalo for tomorrow morning. So I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, and bye guys.